I had always kind of wanted to try it, but I'd never found the environment to do it. And walking in the first time, and it's really just amazing, inspiring to see people. And at that time, you know nothing about it, and they all just look fantastic. Everybody's, it's amazing to think, okay, one person is leading and the other person is following everything they lead, and they're communicating in a way with no words to match the music and do all these really impressive spins and turns and dips and to me it was just absolutely astounding. And at the time I had like a really big space bubble, so like I wasn't super comfortable like in people's space, and to watch people that were just super comfortable dancing like side by side and moving through all these patterns together as a unit was just, it was super inspiring. And so I was hooked right away. It was fun, it was active, it was social, everybody was so friendly. And at the time, the university club, it was everybody around my age too, which was really helpful. So I really, it was eye-opening that there was this whole world that I had no idea about. And I really appreciated that for sure.
When I moved here in 2017, I actually didn't even know anyone. So I thought, hey, what's a quick way for me to build a community around myself? And somebody back home suggested, hey, why don't you try salsa dancing or partner dancing? I'm like, okay, that's a cool idea. So found out that there was actually salsa classes in that room right there. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll give it a shot. So I dropped by, they were doing beginner salsa lessons, and I thought, let's give this a shot. Let's go into it and see what happens.
But as far as I know, it was kind of you that got Salsa in the Park going.
I was probably the one who formalized Salsa in the Park, is probably the better way to do it, because it was originally just friends. So the people from the university club were, they all got together and we just said we'd go dance outside at the park. We started at the university and danced in the community. That would just go out and we would dance downtown in the park in the summer because the weather was great and it was a good place to be and it was beautiful out. And I basically took that idea and formalized it with a few other people in the community to make it something that was a regular event that we would always show up for, that we would provide music for, that we would offer beginner lessons for, and we would invite everybody in the community to come down. So we started advertising it a little bit more in social media and just spreading it by word of mouth. And over time it's really grown. It's something that I'm really proud of, but I definitely can't take the credit for coming up with the idea. That happens now in a lot of places. Like in the summer, people go down on the beach, they grab a boombox, they tell a bunch of friends. There's group chats that people are in that they'll throw, hey, I'm going to the beach, anybody who wants to come dance with me. And that's basically how it started. The only difference I did was that I added a little bit more of word of mouth and advertising for it and made sure that we were always going to be there, so you could always count on it unless it was pouring rain. Even then, sometimes we would dance in the rain. So yeah, to me, it was just taking an idea that was a really good idea that the community had come up with and formalizing it. And I think that's one of the areas I particularly like helping out, is I'm very community minded, and I like to see, you know, what's going on out there and then take those ideas and develop them. Because I think I have good ideas, but everybody also has good ideas, and it's taking them all, putting those pieces together and creating an awesome, fantastic idea that you can really spread. So yes, maybe I've grown Salsa in the Park, but I wasn't the first one to come up with the idea, I just maybe the one to formalize it. Yeah.
think I have a couple of pictures or video clips from years ago from being just soaked.
Yeah.
on it.
Oh yeah, and we'll dance there. We'll dance there almost till we get absolutely soaked. Some people would dance even when it's pouring rain. But I do remember times where throwing my jacket over the speaker and just keep on going, and sometimes it would pass and you just keep going, and sometimes it would pour and you're done. But generally speaking, we have pretty good weather here. You get more days of dancing for sure than you do where you're not. I was finishing up my university degree. I had one semester left to go. I had a friend at the university, UBC Okanagan, asking me since I started there, you should come dancing, you should come try dancing, and I just never had the time or the space to fit it in. And on my last semester, I was like, I really haven't done a lot of active stuff. I don't know a ton of people outside of the small group of friends that I had and the one club that I was a part of before that. And so I went and I tried it out. So it was the second semester. They'd already had one semester through. At the time that I joined up, that was the biggest club on campus. And so it was really exciting. Our little group, because we were coming in second semester, we actually practiced out in the hallway of the big ballroom, and there were about 60 people in there, and we all wanted to be in there too. So at the end of the night, we'd go watch them dance, and we'd just be awed by what they were doing. And you know, it took me maybe once or twice, and I was hooked, even though I was terrible at dancing at that point. So it was just something else to see all those really great dancers, to meet all these new people, and to learn all these new things and be active while you were doing it. So. You get used to going to ask random people that show up at your events how they got into dancing. And now, like in terms of confidence, where at the start I wasn't comfortable in people's space. I hug everybody now. It's just something I do when I meet people. And if I go to a new city, one of the first things I do is look up places to dance, because I know it's going to be a great way to meet people. So, for example, I flew into Sydney one time, and the time change, of course, is brutal coming from Canada, and I didn't want to go to sleep, so I looked up dance, and there was something going on in a park in Sydney, and I went down and I met this Rueda circle of people. I had no idea who they were, and I watched for a little bit, and then I went up and said, hey, can I join you? And they were super excited to have me, and then I ended up having people to show me around the city and tell me what dance events were going on, and it was just super exciting. And I find you don't get that same experience. Dance is one of those places where you meet somebody and you dance for, one song. It could be 3 minutes, and by the end of the song you feel like you've known them your whole life. I've heard stories of people in my community, that were really shy and timid, or and then after a while they just really come out of their shell. And I've had people that will go ask somebody that they just met on the dance floor. They've had 3 to 6 minutes of dancing with, and that person will invite them to stay next time they're coming to their community, like at their own home. And I don't think you can do that in a lot of different communities. Like, I certainly don't run into people randomly on the street and invite them to come over, but there's just a different connection about it in all the different dances, and yeah, it's very genuine. Health benefits, there are so many health benefits in terms of dancing. Like, I can't even begin to describe all of them, but I mean, number one, it's active. And it's not just physically active, it's active for your brain. As a leader, you're learning all these new patterns, but you're also learning how to communicate them to somebody using whatever signals you are, depending on the dance. So for salsa, it might be through your hands more, through a dance like kizomba. You might be using a chest connection or your knee-thigh connection. And all of these different things work both on your active, your ability to be coordinated, to keep the beat, and also to do faster, slower songs, but also to communicate all of those things that you're hearing in the music to your partner. As a follow, you're learning how to respond, and at the same time, so you're being active, but it's also stimulating your brain to react to all these different leads with their different signals. And what does that mean, and how do I interpret what their signals are and put it into my dance? So not just in terms of physically active, but also mentally stimulating. And then in terms of other benefits, you will find that the social benefits, things like people who felt isolated before and didn't have a community, dance is so welcoming. So in terms of just mental health benefits for being in a social community that is welcoming and that will ask anybody of any age to dance, no matter what your level and skill, you can find places to go to dance. And I think that is huge as well. So tons of health benefits. In terms of let's start with follows. You mentioned that follows sometimes have to wait their turn for dancing, and that is an unfortunate reality, one that we try to work on all the time, but ladies seem to gravitate to dance much more quickly, and maybe that's just the way our culture is here. But I think in Kelowna, we've worked really hard to balance it out through either training follows or ladies to lead. So we have a very good amount of follows that can lead really well, and that will take that on if there's an imbalance of male leads there, or just leads in general. So that's one way we combat that. For follows, I always tell them here, especially, I say, you don't have to wait necessarily for the man or for the lead to ask you for a dance. Get out there and ask for dances too. And I know not everybody wants that. It's always nice to be asked, but I will tell you that in our communities, when we go somewhere and you get into a big room and it's very intimidating, and there's really high-level dancers there, if you want to dance with them, they'll be asked all night by other people, so you better be able to get in there and ask. So that's the key thing. Or just if you're not comfortable asking, being aware of when you're standing on the side, what your body language is communicating. So for example, if you're sitting down, you're less likely to be asked than if you're standing up. If you're standing up and moving like you're enjoying the music, you're more likely to be asked. And the closer you are to the dance floor and the people, the less the lead has to travel from the floor to you to pick you up to dance. So there's lots of things you can do to improve your chances. For the leads, I think everybody has their different reasons to join dancing. But truly, I think a really strong lead is not discouraged by asking any level of person to dance.
Sé que a ti te tengo aprendida, sé que a ti te gusta esta vida, superando todo lo que hacía, este es mi nueva melodía. Esta falda corta me encantó, ese baile nuevo me encendió, como me lo mueve con sabor, mami mejor dame de tu amor, cuando yo te vi de vestir, te fuiste para mí, te tuve que abrir.
You'll get a lot out of dancing with a beginner and seeing how you lead them and how smoothly you can get them through different things and how much you can take them through. And I can't count the number of people that I've had that have said I'm so thankful for finding dance and what it has given to me in value for my life, in terms of activity, in terms of confidence, in terms of how comfortable they are around people and talking to people, and just another activity in their life too. So I think it's huge.
My learning experience with it was actually not too challenging with the salsa, because we're just doing the beginner steps with the salsa room that they used to have. But over time, I found myself, wanting to do more than just the basics, and I found getting into that at the time was a little bit tricky, just because I didn't know very much, But then as time went on and I made connections, I learned where to go. And then we still have these Tuesdays that happen in the park, right? And so I went to a few of those. I started looking at people. I'm a little bit intuitive with body mechanics, so I started picking it up like just by visual means pretty easily. My timing was still horrible. That's still a big work in progress for me, but I think I picked it up fairly easily for the salsa and bachata, but kizomba was definitely the hardest for me to figure out, just because it's so unstructured. In terms of comparison between what I used to know and then what I grew to love, was that when I was doing hip hop and popping, yeah, it was a little bit for me, but it kind of got to a point where it was more performative and it was for others, and I was performing for people and I was on stage, and that was okay, but that wasn't really bringing me joy anymore. But I found my joy in dancing again when I started with partner dancing, because I found that it was more of a communication between two people and less to do with how I look for somebody else. I still get nervous about how I look for my partner, but I found that it was more about just having a good conversation, having a good time, laughing about it, and just having a good vibrance of life. And, you know, a year or two went by, I started making new friends, started making connections, and then I kind of like really got into it. But what I found was intriguing was my confidence in terms of how secure I felt with my partner kind of diminished at first, because I'm like, oh shoot, I messed up. Oh, she might have noticed. Oh, I'm so sorry. Like, so every kind of mistake, you know, I kind of felt self-conscious about. And it took a little bit of training, and it's still taking training to kind of not say sorry as much and kind of get better at it. And I think honestly, it's as my musicality has improved with the different styles, I found that my confidence has also gotten better, because it's not just like I'm surviving through a song, it's now more that I'm interpreting and communicating with that song. And in that kind of sense, when you have a conversation, it's okay to mess up, you know? Any interaction, people mess up, they're sometimes awkward, but you still have a fun conversation and you still laugh at the end, right? So it's better now, but it was definitely a little bit challenging before.
Oye, Clara, yo sé que las cosas no son fáciles, especialmente en esto de las relaciones, pero mira, hay que tratar.
There's obviously the music, that's a key component, right? Your body is an expression of what you're interpreting in the music. But more than that, I think what I really enjoy about what I do with kizomba dancing or salsa or bachata is that it's a communication between two individuals, and you're kind of speaking a similar language and kind of expressing yourselves very non-traditionally, and we just have fun with it, you know? It's a way of having a catharsis kind of at the end of a stressful day, or just to bring some vibrance into life. So that's really what I enjoy about dancing.
When I'm on a mic, yo, rip up the bass. My DJ is live in the place. I'm on a mic with my lyrical flow. I like it when the bass line's low. I'm on the mic with my lyrical flow. I like it when the bass line's low.